What happens to people who place too much importance on status or the standing they have in a group? In The Necklace, you'll meet Madame Loisel, an unforgettable character whose pursuit of status cost her more than she could ever have imagined. The title of this short story is The Necklace and is written by Guy de Maupassant. Motivation is the reason behind a character's behavior. It's what drives a character to think and act in a certain way. For example, a character might want the lead in a school play or perhaps to fit in with popular students. What the character says and does would reflect that desire. As you read The Necklace, consider how Madame Loisel's words and actions reflect her motivation. On page 207, let's read about the author. Guy de Maupassant is considered by many to be the greatest French short story writer. He created his characters with remarkable precision, focusing on the exact gesture, feeling, or word that defined each character. As a result, his stories seem to be, in his words, pieces of human existence torn from reality. Although Maupassant was born into an upper middle-class family in France, the family fortune ran out early. He was forced to work for a time as a government clerk, the position that the main character's husband holds in The Necklace. Eventually, though, Maupassant turned to writing and managed to achieve some wealth and fame through his hundreds of stories. Sadly, his success was short-lived. After suffering from mental illness, Maupassant died in a Paris asylum at the age of 42. This story takes place in Paris in the second half of the 19th century. At the time Maupassant wrote The Necklace, European societies were divided into upper, middle, and lower classes. Birth usually determined a person's class. Sometimes a man could buy his way into a higher class by acquiring wealth. A woman could improve her status by marrying into a higher class. One obstacle for women was the tradition of the dowry, money or property that a bride's family was expected to give her new husband, but that poorer families could not provide. As we read this story, I want you to pay close attention to the characteristics of the characters. Instead of directly telling readers what a character is like, a writer often includes details that turn out to be clues to the character's personality. Readers can use these details along with their own knowledge to make inferences or logical guesses about the character's traits, values, and feelings. In a chart like the one shown on page 207, record your inferences as you read, along with the details and experiences that help you make them. All right, let's begin reading on page 208, The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. She was one of those pretty and charming girls, born as if by an accident of fate into a family of clerks. With no dowry, no prospects, no way of any kind of being met, understood, loved, and married by a man, both prosperous and famous, she was finally married to a minor clerk in the Ministry of Education. She dressed plainly because she could not afford fine clothes, but was as unhappy as a woman who has come down in the world, for women have no family rank or social class. With them, beauty, grace, and charm take the place of birth and breeding. Their natural poise, their instinctive good taste, and their mental cleverness are the sole guiding principles which makes daughters of the common people the equals of ladies in high society. She grieved incessantly, feeling that she had been born for all the little niceties and luxuries of living. She grieved over the shabbiness of her apartment, the dinginess of the walls, the worn-out appearance of the chairs, and the ugliness of the draperies. All these things, which another woman of her class would not even have noticed, gnawed at her and made her furious. The sight of the little Breton girl who did her humble housework roused in her disconsolate regrets and wild daydreams. She would dream of silent chambers draped with oriental tapestries and lighted by tall bronze floor lamps, and of two handsome butlers in knee breeches who, drowsy from the heavy warmth cast by the central stove, dozed in large overstuffed armchairs. She would dream of great reception halls hung with old silks, of fine furniture filled with priceless curios, and of small, stylish, scented sitting rooms, just right for the 4 o'clock chat with intimate friends, with distinguished and sought-after men whose attention every woman envies and longs to attract. When dining at the round table, covered for the third day with the same cloth, opposite her husband, who would raise the cover of the soup tureen, declaring delightedly, "Ah, a good stew. There's nothing I like better." She would dream of fashionable dinner parties, of gleaming silverware, of tapestry making the walls alive with characters out of history and strange birds in a fairyland forest. She would dream of delicious dishes served on wonderful china, of gallant compliments whispered and listened to with a sphinx-like smile as one eats the rosy flesh of a trout or nibbles at the wings of a grouse. She had no evening clothes, no jewels, nothing. But those were the things she wanted. She felt that was the kind of life for her. She so much longed to please, be envied, be fascinating, and sought after. She had a well-to-do friend, a classmate of convent school days, whom she would no longer go to see, simply because she would feel so distressed on returning home, and she would weep for days on end from vexation, regret, despair, and anguish. Then one evening, her husband came home proudly, holding out a large envelope. "Look," he said, "I've got something for you." She excitedly tore open the envelope and pulled out a printed card bearing these words: "The Minister of Education and Madame Georges Ramponneau beg Monsieur and Madame Loisel to do them the honor of attending an evening reception at the ministerial mansion on Friday, January 18th. Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, she scornfully tossed the invitation on the table, murmuring, "What good is that to me? But my dear, I thought you'd be thrilled to death. You never get a chance to go out, and this is a real affair, a wonderful one. I had an awful time getting a card. Everybody wants one. It's much sought after, and not many clerks have a chance at one. You'll see all the most important people there." She gave him an irritated glance and burst out impatiently, "What do you think I have to go in?" He hadn't given that a thought. He stammered, "Why, the dress you wear when we go to the theater. That looks quite nice, I think." He stopped talking, dazed and distracted, to see his wife burst out weeping. 2 large tears slowly rolled from the corners of her eyes to the corners of her mouth. He gasped, "Why? What's the matter? What's the trouble?" By sheer willpower, she overcame her outburst and answered in a calm voice while wiping the tears from her wet cheeks, "Oh, nothing. Only I don't have an evening dress, and therefore I can't go to that affair. Give the card to some friend at the office whose wife can dress better than I can." He was stunned. He resumed, "Let's see, Matilda. How much would a suitable outfit cost? One you could wear for other affairs too. Something very simple?" She thought it over for several seconds, going over her allowance and thinking also of the amount she could ask for without bringing an immediate refusal and an exclamation of dismay from the thrifty clerk. Finally, she answered hesitatingly, I'm not sure exactly, but I think with 400 francs I could manage. He turned a bit pale, for he had set aside just that amount to buy a rifle so that the following summer he could join some friends who were getting up a group to shoot larks on the plain near Nanterre. However, he said, all right, I'll give you 400 francs, but try to get a nice dress. As the day of the party approached, Madame Loisel seemed sad, moody, and ill at ease. Her outfit was ready, however. Her husband said to her one evening, what's the matter? You've been all out of sorts for 3 days. And she answered, it's embarrassing not to have a jewel or a gem, nothing to wear on my dress. I'll look like a pauper. I'd almost rather not go to the party. He answered, why not wear some flowers? They're very fashionable this season. For 10 francs, you can get 2 or 3 gorgeous roses. She wasn't at all convinced. No, there's nothing more humiliating than to look poor among a lot of rich women. But her husband exclaimed, my, but you're silly. Go see your friend, Madame Forestier, and ask her to lend you some jewelry. You and she know each other well enough for you to do that. She gave a cry of joy. Why, that's so. I hadn't thought of it. The next day she paid her friend a visit and told her of her predicament. Madame Forestier went toward a large closet with mirrored doors, took out a large jewel box, brought it over, opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, pick something out, my dear. At first her eyes noted some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross, gold and gems of marvelous workmanship. She tried on these adornments in front of the mirror, but hesitated, unable to decide which to part with and put back. She kept on asking, haven't you something else? Oh yes, keep on looking. I don't know just what you'd like. All at once she found in a black satin box a superb diamond necklace, and her pulse beat faster with longing. Her hands trembled as she took it up. Clasping it around her throat, outside her high-necked dress, she stood in ecstasy looking at her reflection. Then she answered, hesitantly, pleading, could I borrow that? Just that and nothing else? Why, of course. She threw her arms around her friend, kissed her warmly, and fled with her treasure. All right, that will end the first part of the story for today. All of your sheets that you need to do for assignments, they are already in SMS.